What happens when a celebrated music legend, admired for decades of charm and composure, finds himself in a clash that strips away the polished image the world has long admired? That is exactly what unfolded when Cliff Richard sat down for what was expected to be a light-hearted, nostalgic interview with Lorraine Kelly. Instead of gentle reflections on his remarkable career, the conversation spiraled into a confrontation that none could have predicted. One that exposed raw emotions and left viewers stunned. At the outset, Cliff appeared in good spirits, smiling warmly as Lorraine welcomed him. Their exchange began with laughter, memories of his early hits, and affectionate nods to his loyal fans. But as the discussion shifted from music to more personal matters, the atmosphere changed. Lorraine, known for her direct yet respectful questioning, probed into aspects of Cliff's past that clearly unsettled him. At first, he tried to respond with grace, deflecting with charm and humor, but beneath the surface, his discomfort was visible. The turning point came when Lorraine pressed on issues Cliff had spent years avoiding. She asked about controversies and rumors that had followed him through the years, matters he believed were settled or irrelevant to his current work. Cliff, visibly tense, attempted to steer the conversation back to his music, but Lorraine persisted. Her insistence was not malicious, but it was unrelenting, and it struck a nerve he could no longer ignore. The audience could feel the tension rising. Cliff's answers grew shorter, his tone sharper, his smile fading. The contrast was stark. The charming performer adored by millions was now clearly fighting irritation on live television. Lorraine, sensing his frustration, did not step back. Instead, she pressed further, perhaps believing that confronting these issues directly was part of her role as an interviewer. But to Cliff, it felt like provocation, and his patience began to fray. Then came the moment that shifted the entire interview. Lorraine asked a pointed question that Cliff felt crossed a boundary, one that dredged up a chapter of his life he had no intention of revisiting. His reaction was immediate. His voice rose, sharper than anyone had ever heard from him in such a setting. The calm, composed exterior cracked, revealing anger that had long been hidden from public view. He told Lorraine that her line of questioning was unfair and deeply disrespectful. The air in the studio grew heavy. Lorraine, maintaining her composure, attempted to explain that she was merely doing her job, but Cliff was not willing to accept that justification. His frustration spilled over as he challenged her directly, questioning why she would tarnish what was supposed to be a celebration of his career with painful reminders of the past. The tension was undeniable, and the audience watched in silence, unsure of how far it would go. Instead of diffusing the moment, the exchange only escalated. Lorraine's insistence on transparency clashed with Cliff's demand for dignity. Their words collided, each sentence adding fuel to the fire. Cliff, a man known for handling criticism with elegance, now seemed cornered, and his anger took center stage. He leaned forward, his voice firm, declaring that he had given enough of himself to the public and would not tolerate being humiliated on live television. The clash reached its breaking point when Cliff abruptly pushed back his chair. The sudden movement sent a shockwave through the set. Lorraine tried to intervene, urging him to stay, but he stood up, visibly furious. Without another word, he walked off the stage, leaving Lorraine momentarily stunned and the production crew scrambling to adjust. It was a moment of raw drama that no one could have scripted, one that transformed an ordinary morning show into a scene of unforgettable confrontation. For viewers at home, the sight of Cliff Richard storming out was almost surreal. This was not the image of the beloved singer they had followed for decades. It was a rare glimpse into his frustration, his vulnerability, and his breaking point. And as the screen cut to a commercial, the debate began immediately. Was Lorraine simply doing her duty, or had she crossed a line? And had Cliff overreacted, or was he justified in protecting his boundaries? Backstage, the atmosphere was just as tense as what viewers had seen seconds before. Cliff's departure from the set had not been a rehearsed stunt or a planned dramatic exit. It was raw, instinctive, and deeply personal. Crew members tried to approach him, urging him to return, but Cliff was adamant. His face, usually animated with a performer's glow, carried only one expression now: sheer indignation. He muttered sharply about being ambushed, about how he had trusted the platform to celebrate his legacy, only to be blindsided by questions he thought were buried. Lorraine, still seated on stage, attempted to regain her composure. For years, she had prided herself on balancing warmth with journalistic integrity, but this moment shook her. To some, her persistence was admirable, proof that she wouldn't shy away from difficult conversations. To others, however, it looked like she had deliberately cornered a guest who had come in good faith. That duality played out instantly on social media, where clips of the incident were already spreading, drawing divided reactions from fans and critics alike. Meanwhile, Cliff remained backstage, refusing to return. He felt betrayed, insisting that there was a line between professional curiosity and personal intrusion, and Lorraine had crossed it. His frustration wasn't just about that one question, but about years of feeling like his reputation had been shadowed by speculation. To him, this wasn't journalism. It was reopening wounds that had never fully healed. He paced the hallway, gesturing angrily as aides tried to calm him, while the producers whispered urgently about how to handle the fallout. On air, Lorraine addressed the situation delicately. She explained to the audience that sometimes interviews take unexpected turns, and while she respected Cliff deeply, she stood by her decision to ask the questions. It was a careful balancing act, showing deference to a national treasure while defending her credibility as a host. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed the tension of what had just unfolded. She knew she had crossed into dangerous territory, and the audience could sense it. The debate outside the studio exploded almost instantly. Longtime fans of Cliff Richard rallied to his defense, accusing Lorraine of humiliating a man who had spent decades giving joy through music. Hashtags calling for respect for Cliff trended, with fans reminding everyone of his accomplishments and the grace with which he had carried himself for most of his career. Yet, there was another side. Those who argued that Cliff, as a public figure, had a responsibility to face difficult questions. To them, his walkout looked less like justified anger and more like avoidance. Lorraine was seen as approachable yet honest, a presenter who could be both kind and direct. When these two personas collided so dramatically, it shattered the carefully maintained images that both had cultivated for years. The result was a cultural moment that no one could ignore. For Cliff, the storming off was more than just a reaction. It was a statement. He believed he had been pushed into a corner, and leaving was his way of reclaiming control. Yet, the image of him walking off live television became a symbol that would follow him long after the cameras stopped rolling. For Lorraine, the incident became a defining test of her approach. Critics accused her of prioritizing sensationalism over respect, while supporters praised her courage to address uncomfortable truths, even in the face of backlash. In the days that followed, the story refused to fade. Newspapers splashed headlines about the clash, analyzing every detail of the interview. Pundits debated whether Cliff had overreacted or whether Lorraine had been out of line. The public was divided, but one truth became clear. The interview had touched a nerve far deeper than a simple disagreement. It spoke to the tension between celebrity privacy and public curiosity, a tension that has defined entertainment journalism for decades. Cliff himself eventually released a statement, carefully worded but firm. He expressed gratitude for his loyal fans and emphasized that he would not allow anyone, and no matter how respected, to diminish his contributions or tarnish his dignity. He did not mention Lorraine by name, but the implication was obvious. Lorraine, in turn, addressed the incident again on her show, clarifying that her intention had never been to disrespect him, but to have an honest conversation. Her words were calm, but the damage had been done. The clash was etched into public memory. Even weeks later, viewers replayed the footage, dissecting every expression, every pause, every word. It wasn't just about Cliff Richard or Lorraine Kelly anymore. It was about the larger question of boundaries in media. How far should interviewers go in pursuit of the truth? And how much should celebrities be expected to endure in the name of transparency? Those questions lingered, turning a single morning interview into a national talking point. Ultimately, the altercation became a moment of reckoning for both. For Cliff, it was a reminder that no matter how carefully one guards their legacy, it can be challenged in an instant. For Lorraine, it was a reminder that persistence can be powerful, but it can also backfire when it brushes too close to the line of insensitivity. Together, their clash underscored the fragile balance between entertainment and accountability. A balance that, on that unforgettable morning, tipped into chaos and changed the conversation forever.